Hey, hi. I'm still busy, very, very busy. I opened a school 2 weeks ago, a seminary, and it's going great. It is going great. I mean, there's, obviously challenges and a lot of, logistic things to take care of. But I'm also running a trip next week, the Women's Reconnection trip, my usual trips that I do for women, which are just like the joy of my life. So there's no way I'm dropping those. So there's a lot going on, but I know that next week I'm not going to be able to record this little share because I'm going to be on a trip. So I'm pushing myself to do it today. I see that the essay that I am focusing on today is the same essay that I did last year. It just seems very familiar to me. So if it sounds familiar to you, you have a good memory and you remember correctly. But I still think it resonates with people, and even if they're hearing it for a second time, it for sure still resonates for me. So this parsha is called Chaye Sarah, which means the life of Sarah, but we do know that Sarah died in this week's parsha. And it says it in a very interesting way. Vayu Chaye Sarah, 100 shana ve-20 shana ve-7 shanim, shnei Chaye Sarah. So it says, this is the life of Sarah, 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. These are the years of Sarah. So it sounds a little bit redundant, and it's weird that they separate the years. Like, just say 127 years she was when she died, call it a day. So Rashi and many commentaries talk about this idea that why does it have to say 100 years and 20 years and 7 years? And then afterwards it says, these are the years of Sarah. This was her life. And they all say that it's to show that all the years of Sarah's life were shavin litova. They were all equally good. They weren't just like, she lived 127 years. Some were good, some were bad. There were ups, there were downs. No, they were all equally good. So it was 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. Eile shnei Chaye Sarah. These were the years of Sarah's life. Each and every one of them was equally good. So it's a little strange because, why do you have to point this out? Why do you have to say now at the end of her life that each and every year was equally good, or that they were all they were kind of bunched together in this way, and that they were all so significant, each year of her life? And also, it's interesting that later on, when it talks about Avraham, who had come back from the Akedat Yitzchak, from the binding of Isaac, he came back and basically found that his wife had died. Sarah had died after the Akedah. Can you imagine, after this momentous thing, where a trial, a test, where Hashem is testing him so monumentally, and then he has a chance to come back with his son and to tell his wife Sarah, his partner, his whole life partner, what happened. You won't believe this. What happened? Hashem told me to go, and I did it, and I went, and then Hashem didn't want me to actually sacrifice him. There's so much to say, and they had been together for 100 something years, right? 100 maybe 10 years, or 107 years, So it's a lot. It's a lot for him to have dealt with at that point. And it's interesting because it says when he mourned Sarah and he spoke about her at her funeral, it says livkota, that he was crying for her and he mourned for her. And there's a little kaf in the word livkota. Instead of saying, instead of writing all the letters out in the perfect size, all the same size, the letter kaf in livkot, which means to cry, is small. So the commentaries point out that, what's up with that? Why is the kaf small? And they say that he really didn't cry so much. He cried a little bit, in a way that was just a moderate amount. He did not really grieve in a way that was tearing his clothes and, prostrating himself on the floor, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't. It was just a regular crying. It was sad, but she was old, and, she was my wonderful wife, but nobody lives forever. Call it a day. So the question is here, why do we have to say that about Abraham's mourning? Wouldn't you think, why is that a good thing that he didn't cry so much? I don't know. I feel like he should have cried more, And what is that? Why is that important to note, that Avraham didn't cry so much? So it says, so great. Nesiv Shalom is so great. In this first essay in the Parsha, Nesiv Shalom says like this: when we are tested in life, and we're all tested all the time, test after test after test, Hashem basically has two parts of the test. There's a test before. There's the test before you do or don't do what you're supposed to do. Okay, I don't know why this is happening. This is like a focus issue in my phone. So first there is the test before, meaning, should I do it? Should I not do it? Am I supposed to do this thing? Am I supposed to not do this thing? It's a test. It's like you don't know what to do, and you're in a very difficult situation. You don't know what your reaction should be. You don't know what to do in the situation. It's a struggle. It's a hard thing that you're going through. But then there's the test after you pass the test. Okay? And that is the test of arrogance. That is the test of patting yourself on the back, going to tell people what just happened, going to like feeling really, really good about yourself. And of course, we should always feel good about ourselves, but this certain pride and that you take credit. Oh, I was just amazing at this, right? You know? And that is also, the test of arrogance is also something that you need to pass. It's another test. Okay, like how do you react to everything afterwards? And it's not only arrogance, but it's also sometimes the Yetzer Hara comes to you after you passed a test or after you had a struggle, you got through it, and then the Yetzer Hara tries to convince you that maybe it was too bad that you did that. Maybe you shouldn't have even passed the test. Maybe you shouldn't have done what you really should have done. You passed the test. It was good. What you did was good. So sometimes the Yetzer Hara tries to make you regret that you even passed the test, which is another test in and of itself. Okay, so here's what happened to Avraham, right? Avraham just went through this huge nisayon, this huge trial. It was a serious, serious struggle for him. What? Now I'm supposed to take my son who you promised me after 100 years, and you told me I was going to have a whole bunch of descendants from this son? You told me I was going to have a nation from this son? What are you talking about, Hashem? And the Satan came to him and tried to convince him not to go, and so on and so forth. And he went all the way up to Har Moriah, and he almost sacrificed his son. And then the angel came and said, no, do not do anything. Don't touch him. Don't do anything. Now he's coming back from that trial, that test. And what we know from a few midrashim is that the Satan came to Sarah and told her that Avraham went up and is about to sacrifice his son, your son, Yitzchak. And from the Midrash, we understand that the Satan was scaring Sarah to the point where Sarah herself had a heart attack and died from hearing that event, from hearing about that event. So now, imagine that Avraham is coming back from the Akedah, is about to tell his wife the story, hears that she died or sees that she passed away, hears from other people, you wouldn't believe it, she heard you guys went up to sacrifice your son, and that's why she died. She had a heart attack from hearing that you had gone to sacrifice your son. Could you imagine what must be going on in his heart? It's crazy. It's like he's now going to say, Avraham or any regular person would say, that is so terrible. This is the biggest tragedy. I can't believe this happened as a result of me going to, thinking that I was going to sacrifice my son. This is what happened to my wife. I can't believe I lost my wife because I was listening to Hashem. Could you imagine the mood that would put you in if you felt so guilty that your wife maybe died of a heart attack because you went to do something to your son? Terrible. It's a terrible feeling. But what he knew, what Avraham knew, and this is his passing the test after the test, he knew that was not the case. The Satan knew that Sarah was supposed to die at exactly this moment. And that's what the Torah is saying. Hashem exactly took Sarah, or these were the years of Sarah. Each were equally good. There was 100 years, and there was 20 years, and there was 7 years, and they all go together, and they were all equally good. These were the years of Sarah. She did not die 1 second before she was supposed to die. This is how it was supposed to be. Hashem planned this all along. The timing was an interesting timing, and that is what the Satan took advantage of. He wanted it to seem like Sarah died as a result of hearing the news of Yitzchak. But the Satan knew she was about to die anyway, and he chose to tell her this story a minute before she died so that it would seem like it was all Avraham's fault. But in fact, we know that life is crazy and life is difficult, but it is exactly the plan that Hashem has in mind for us. Exactly this person was supposed to die at exactly this moment. This is not a tragedy. This is the way it was supposed to be. Okay? She was an old lady. She had a wonderful life. She had a beautiful, every single year was as good as the next. There were no ups and downs. This was a righteous woman who lived her life to the fullest. She used every single moment to its highest benefit, to its highest advantage. That's how she lived her life. And Avraham knew that, and he knew that it's all good and that Hashem meant for exactly this to happen. So when he came home and he saw this, he said, you know what? I'm going to bury my wife. I am sad. She was my life partner. He spent a lot of money on this burial plot, and he had a whole argument and negotiation with Ephron and with all these people that were selling him Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of the patriarchs. And yet, when he mourned her and he spoke at the funeral, it was like he was saying, listen, she was my life partner and she was wonderful, but I'm just going to cry with that little cough, meaning exactly as I'm supposed to cry, exactly the amount. I'm not going to cry more as if there was a terrible tragedy that happened here. Now, and it's amazing. It really is amazing that he reached that level, but it's a lesson for all of us. And I think that the Nesiv Shalom is trying to tell us all that this is what happens to our life. You know, like we have to understand a few things. We have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep making decisions. And once we make a decision and we feel that we have done all that we can, all our effort, we put in all our effort, we're trying to make the right decision. And then we just have to say, listen, whatever happens as a result of our actions was meant to be. Was meant to be. I need to make my decision. I'm trying to make the right decision with the resources that I have at the time.